Today on the LTC Bowling Show, we're going to build an arsenal using Storm bowling balls. So for all you Storm fans, this one's for you. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the LTC show. I'm JR Raymond, your host today. Today we're going to talk about building an arsenal by the numbers. When I say by the numbers, it goes based on a video I did a while ago, a couple of years back now, where we actually take the RGs and the differentials and we subtract them from each other, and then we add values based on the cover and the core. So the actual way we do this is the RG minus the differential, and then we subtract or add based on the cover. So if we have a 248 RG and an 048 differential, that gives you 200s. We do it as whole numbers. And then if it's a solid cover, we subtract 6 more points. If it's a hybrid, we subtract 3. And if it's a pearl, we actually add 6. Now, I know a lot of you are going to have questions about, well, what if I take a pearl and I dull it up, this and that. We'll go over that a little bit at the end. But for now, let's just go based on exact cover stocks, the way they come from the factory. And today we're going to be talking about the actual factory of Storm Bowling, where they're producing an awful lot of bowling balls. Actually, I did the list here, and there's a lot. There's a bundle here. I didn't know they had this many in their line. So it's kind of cool. We have a lot to choose from. But first, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so that way you get all the notifications of all of our videos that are coming out here pretty much daily. This show, the LTC Bowling Show, I'm trying to do at least Monday through Thursday for you and do it a little bit more on a regular basis. And also be on the lookout for more of a radio podcast. I'm going to be uploading some just where you can just listen, where we're just going to talk bowling. We're not going to be looking at things. You don't need to see my face. You can just throw me in your pocket and kind of listen for a little bit. And most of it's going to be a lot about, tournaments, recaps, talking about the moves that I make during events, just kind of getting more in depth about the actual events, what's going on, the formats, the oil patterns, how we played them, the balls used, this type of stuff. And that's going to go on, for each tournament that we go to. This weekend, I'm going to a couple of bigger events, but they're still MSBS events, but they're 2 championship events. So we got a major on Sunday. It's going to pay upwards of close to $5,000 for the win, and then you have the championship, the sweeper championship event on Saturday. Both going on in Toledo, and we are. That one's only going to pay about $1,500, but there's going to be quite a few bowlers there, and it's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to try to live stream it a little bit for you. At least I'll attempt to. I can't promise that the Wi-Fi is going to be the greatest, but I will give it a go. I'll try to do what I can for you. And for those of you who have seen some of the Wi-Fi or some of the live events that I've done for you, I understand that they're not the greatest the actual quality isn't very good. But I'm kind of at the will of whatever Wi-Fi I have at that time. The cool thing is when Wi-Fi is not very good, but my phone has a good enough connection, I can use data because I do stream it from my phone. Now that StreamYard actually lets me do it from my phone, and that's where you see those bowling balls at the bottom, because then I can come back to the phone and I can actually just click on, it's a scrolling bar that shows which bowling ball that I'm actually using at the time. So it's pretty neat. I try to give you a little bit of live update throughout the event when I can. But here today, we're actually going to, this is kind of an exciting thing. I know a lot of people have been asking, when are you going to do a Storm one? When are you going to, because the original first one I did was building an arsenal with that EBI line. And today, I'll finally get to the Storm line, and we'll actually look at all of the bowling balls here. So we're going to take a look over here at I put this together for you. This is just a list of all the bowling balls, and I've already done the liberty of doing the math for you on these. Which over here I did them based on solids, hybrids, pearls, and then the full list in order over here on the right. So there are actually 23 bowling balls that Storm has in their line right now. And now that's just Storm. We're not adding rotor grip into this. This is only Storm, and this isn't 900 Global either. So only Storm. As you can see here, the solids. We'll go through the solids real quick with the The lowest number, meaning that is going to be the strongest overall ball. Now, you got to pay attention to these numbers. Most time, what I'm talking about with these numbers is generally the ball reaction you're going to see out of these numbers for the first, let's call it 40 feet, depending on the length of the pattern. But for, the front through the middle part of the lane, that's where these numbers come into play. Anything based on the back is going to be mostly your layout and stuff. So, and I know somebody's going to be like, well, you say layouts don't matter. Well, I'll explain that at a different date. But when it comes to minor tweaks, trying to see stronger reaction down lane, layouts can make a difference with minor tweaks that you may not see visually with your eyes, but it does give you a little bit. Now, with the extremes, if you go like with a 1-inch pen versus a 5-inch pen, obviously you're going to see physically with your eyes, visually, a difference between those two bowling balls. So that's what I mean. So whether you use a longer pen or a shorter pen is either going to give you a smooth down lane reaction or a strong down lane reaction. And so you can make some of these balls, even if they have bigger, higher numbers, you can visually give them a higher or a lower number, because I guess a reaction of like a lower number, because you're actually making it hook more down lane. So it gives you that visual look like, holy cow, this is a 229. Why is it hooking more overall than like my 192? Well, because that 192 is reading the front and the middle part of the lane a whole lot more in less down lane, whereas the 229 is not reading the front and the middle of the lane, and it's actually hooking all down lane. So it gives you that visual look like it's stronger, because it looks like it's giving you that hockey stick type motion down lane, but actual overall hook, the lower number is your stronger overall piece. So just keep that in mind when we're building this. That's kind of where we're going with it. So over here in the solids, you can see we've got a range from 190 to 229. All right, and you'll look at the bottom, you'll see those last three, they're all the urethane ones. Even though they're solid covers, they're urethane. So urethane I usually wouldn't put in here, but because I want you to be able to see all of the bowling balls that are actually available from Storm, these are on here as well. So they technically are solids, they'll go in here. And the reason why they don't get stronger numbers, because I know urethane bowling balls technically hook more than, the other bowling balls. And when I say hook more, I mean they just hook earlier. The urethane cover reads the lane generally faster, depending on what you do with the cover stock. I know like with the fast pitch, they have, a little bit higher grit number on it and a little bit, more of a sheen. So it kind of scoots to the front a little bit compared to like a pitch black and I think, the pitch black and the pitch black and the pitch purple technically are the same type of bowling ball, same solid cover, same core, but the pitch purple has that sheen to it, so it actually gets down the lane a little bit better. So we can kind of adjust these numbers based on that a little bit. So anyway, we start with 190. We have the Gravity Evolve, and then we move on to a Phase 2 Crux Prime, Axiom, High Road X, IQ Tour, and then those three urethane balls there. In the hybrid versions, we have 194 up to 218. Now these ones, this is where the numbers can kind of get a little bit tricky. The hybrids can usually give you a little bit stronger motion than what you would expect, even if their numbers are a little bit higher. But that's really why you don't see a ton of higher numbers here, is because of the hybrid cover. But anyway, we have the Phase 3 there, and that's going to be one that people are a little bit surprised on. They're like, well, that's a 194. Well, technically, if you were the core shape in that bowling ball is super strong. That is a very super strong core shape, and it does. The core tries to rev up. It tries to get going early. It's the hybrid shiny cover that really scoots that ball down lane. So it's a good combination. So that's one ball right there that I'm talking about that can actually give you a little bit of a mixed feeling. Man, it fits in this spot, but it actually reacts like it fits in this spot in the higher numbers. So you can, like the hybrids can generally be a little bit of both. You can use them as higher number balls or lower number balls, depending on what you're looking for. So you got the Phase 3, the Parallax, the High Road, the All Road, and then the Electrify Hybrid. And then in the pearls, we go all the way up to 201. We start at 201 all the way to 240, which is the Astrophysics, the Omega Crux, the Axiom Pearl, the Trend, the High Road Pearl, IQ Tour Emerald, the IQ Tour Nano Pearl, and then the Electrify Pearl and the Tropical Surge. So why does it keep doing that? So we're looking at this, and when we're trying to build an arsenal, if we're talking about 3 bowling ball arsenal first, we can almost go straight across. So you can go solid hybrid pearl and you would be okay. So like the very top, you have a 190 with the gravity evolve, 194 with the phase 3, and then 201 with the astrophysics. Now, I think that actually would work out pretty well. You have, 3 of the spectrums fairly filled. You got 6 points difference from the gravity evolved to the phase 3, and then another 7-point difference to the astrophysics. So that's not a bad little setup there. And then you even go to the next line. You got phase 2 at 192, the parallax 195, and then an Omega Crux 204. That one wouldn't be as good because I feel like the Omega Crux was a little bit earlier and stronger because of the surface. But again, you can adjust the surfaces on these things. So when we're talking about what I'm saying with building these arsenals is I want to see something in the 190s. I want to see something in the 200s, and then possibly in the 2 teens or even higher. So I would say you either need like a gravity evolve, a phase 2, a Crux Prime, or an Axiom as your solid, benchmark type solid, and then you need. You could even go with something like with the hybrid. You could go with either a phase 3 and a parallax, or and then you jump right up and you can go with any of the pearl in this manner because they're all in the 200s. So I would say generally you would probably go with like a high road or an all road for a hybrid there because they're going to be a little bit they're gonna fit that longer, bigger number a little bit better, and then you can come over and you can then drill like an IQ Tour, one of the emeralds, or a high road pearl with it, something like that. Or I think your option, if you really like the pearl bowling balls, I think you could do something like the trend. So instead of drilling hybrids, if maybe you don't get along with hybrids at all, you could do something like one of those 4 solids, then go straight to a trend, and then you could drill like an IQ Tour, a nano pearl, or an emerald, or even an electrify pearl to fit that area as well. So those are some things to look at. But when we're building an arsenal, again, remember, you're trying to fill gaps. Now, one of the gaps that I see that isn't filled very well here, you can look from over here all the way to the very right, the full list. From the trend up to the IQ Tour, you see a little bit of a gap there. We don't have a 210 up to a 213. Storm, I don't know if Storm will look at this or not, if they even care what my perspective is on this. But I think for another bowling ball, if they can find a core piece that goes in there, because that is a big gap. Now, I notice a little bit of a difference between 5 points, or even 3 or 4 points difference in bowling balls. So this may not mean anything to them, but I would like to see something in between that gap there as another release, if there is one. But anyway, so the new one, like the Axiom Pearl, comes out. That one fits in the 204 range. So that's going to be a strong earlier pearl along with that Omega Crux. And then even the trend I think was a little bit earlier as far as trying to rev up, trying to see the middle of the lane really well. It wasn't crazy down lane. It made a nice motion down lane. Now the high road pearl was one that it was super clean, and it was super clean, and it really tried to go down lane. So that I think is where I would go when I'm, looking at trying to build an arsenal with the Storm stuff. This is where I think we could kind of build at least a base. So maybe if that feels like a 3-ball arsenal there, you could probably go with something like, I know most tournament bowlers are obviously going to try to build something a little bit more than 3 balls. So if you're trying to do 6, I think what you could do is then do either 4 pearls and 2 solids, or 3 solids and 3 pearls, and then, or 2 solids, mix a hybrid in there, and then have the 4 or the 3 pearls in there. So something like have a gravity evolve, drill a strong pin layout on that, so that way it's real controllable, a real strong benchmark type ball for you, or a phase 2, same thing, and then drill something like even like a High Road X that has a solid cover as well, but it gives you that little bit of a shine of a solid, so that covers that spectrum. And then you could drill like an all road, which would be a hybrid type of a benchmark. It would be just a pinch stronger down lane than what like the Gravity Evolve is. Gives you that little bit more in that down lane motion, even in the middle part of the lane, instead of seeing it all in the front. And then you could get something like Even a phase 3 could fill in if you want like a later in the day ball. That could work in there. Maybe a trend. I think a trend would fit in there. But you could do 3 different pearls, and I think you would start with something like an Omega Crux, because that's an earlier pearl, and then maybe throw in a trend with it because it's a little bit later than that Crux, than the Omega Crux, and then maybe have something like a High Road Pearl or an IQ Tour to fill in there. So then that really gives you all 3 spectrums. You have stuff that's going to read that middle of the lane really well. You only really need that 1 ball, maybe 2 at most, that's going to read the front part really well. It's going to be super strong in the front. But most times, you know, the games that really get people, that really make people fall down a little bit, are the transition games. When all of a sudden their ball starts to lose energy down lane, they start to see 10 pins and they start making all these changes, and they're throwing similar balls, and they don't have anything that quite goes through the pins. So those transition games are when you can start really using, you know, those hybrids, those mid-range balls, or even some of the pearls that are going to get you through the pins a little bit later in the day. You know, so really pay attention to these types of things when you're trying to drill an arsenal, when you're trying to come up with an arsenal. And now, again, this is for the Storm fans. This is for the people who, I only use Storm and that's it. These are for you. You know, this is what I think you can do. Maybe save this. You can see that screen. Save that for, you know, your own viewing pleasure. This is the number basis that I use. Now, if you want to take some of these and say you already have some of these balls, and like you have let's say you have an Axiom, and it's just a little over under for you. You've got a bunch of surface on it, and you know, when you get on volume, it overhooks down lane. When you get on, you know, light volume, it overhooks too early. You know, something like that. So maybe you want to throw like a little shine on it, and you say, well, how does that then fit? Like, what's the number of it then? Because I just shined it. I think you would then, instead of taking a subtract 6, you actually subtract 3. Because it's almost like a hybrid, because now you're putting polish on a solid, kind of in a way. It gives you that hybrid type reaction. So I think you would add 3 points from the 6 you subtracted, or just subtract 3 instead if you're going to shine something. So if you're going to take a dull ball, a dull solid, and you're going to shine it, I think it turns it to a hybrid. If you're going to take a pearl and you're going to dull it, again, I think it takes it to a hybrid. So that's a 9-pin swing, or a 9-point swing from a pearl. That's 6. Now you're going to subtract 3 there, so you can take like a high road, and instead of being 217, it ends up being 211, and then minus 3, so 208 or 207, something like that. And so it really makes it like almost a 9 or a 10-point swing on that, and you can make those pearls fit in that mid-range type area rather than being super late. So how you want to play with this, depending on if you're just building an arsenal for league, you can kind of play around with your surfaces. You can do these different things. And I personally, I like, when I'm changing surfaces and stuff, I'll use a little bit of Scotch-Brite type pads, but I'll also use the True Cuts. So make sure, all of this stuff, just make sure to head over to bowlerx.com, get yours whenever you need it. Use discount code JRX on any of that stuff. That'll allow you to use it. But I think that will get you set up pretty well as far as building an arsenal. So again, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell. Tomorrow, maybe we'll look into going back through some of the Brunswick and EBI line type stuff and building an arsenal there for all the Brunswick folks, or for the EBI folks. Maybe I'll just do it one company at a time instead of trying to do all 7 at once, because that would be a huge spreadsheet. So we'll just go from there on that. But make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, comment below. What is your best 3-ball arsenal? Let me know below what you think it is. Or if you want to list your 6-ball arsenal, list it down there below. Until next time, guys, I'm out of here. We'll see you guys later. Take care.